portions of this hour brought to you by Jaffa Machinery. Jaffa's rental fleet is growing with new sizes of excavators and wheel loaders available to rent or buy. If you need earth moving or road building equipment, go to jaffamachinery.com.
Broadcasting live, on air, online, and on your smart speaker. It's the Jason Gregor Show on Edmonton's sports leader, TSN 1260.
350 as we continue on the sports leader, TSN 1260. Oilers Canucks tonight. Of course, you got Canada, Mexico. If you're a soccer fan, you got NFL, Thursday night football. You got MLB playoffs this time of year. So much going on. Of course, F1 is back in action, as is NASCAR. Coming up this weekend, so there's so much to get to as we get to the racing report, brought to you by CanTorque. COVID's been tough on a few of us, and just like some of you, they put on a bit of weight, but it's all muscle. Next generation RT Series low-profile hydraulic actuators are now available. Stronger and more durable than ever. Arrange a demo at CanTorque.com. Colin Livingston joins us once again. And Colin, we saw it last race when Max Verstappen decided they were going to get him his fourth engine, so he starts at the back. Now this weekend it's Carlos Sainz. I don't know if Sainz can repeat what Max did to go from 20 to 2. That's pretty difficult. But how much of an improvement do you think? How much of not advantage, but starting at 20 with the new engine, where do you expect Sainz to finish?
That's a real tough question. I mean, the Ferrari is definitely not nearly as competitive as the Red Bull. I mean, he'll be able to move forward if he can get back to let's just say the race stays dry, which is not expected to be. It's looking like rain all weekend. But in the dry, I would be impressed if he could get back to 10th. In the wet, it's complete crapshoot. The Ferrari was actually really, really good in the rain last year. So they might be able to use that to their advantage. But there's also talk that Hamilton might take an engine penalty here in Turkey. But they're being very, very coy about that, that they may do it. They may not do it. Verstappen getting up to second was the benefit of some of the teams in front of him with really questionable pit calls. And then when the rain hit, Max is really good in the rain. So they were able to take, really what was a 10th place car and jumped a bunch of positions in the last few laps. But that was a whole bunch of fortunate circumstance that led to that.
I find it interesting you saying that Ferrari is good in the rain. What do these guys have do they think, okay, maybe 10% of a race will be in the rain, so they set their cars up to be good in the rain? Or does it just happen to be that they're good in the rain this year? No,
it's the fact where Ferrari's lacking is mainly in their engine. They've got fairly good aerodynamics. So that translates to having a lot of grip. When it's wet, you're not worried about power so much. You're worried about downforce. So having a lot of power isn't a benefit, but being able to grip in the corners is. So that's where, the playing field gets leveled out quite a bit, when it gets wet. Really there's nobody as good as Max and Lewis in the rain though. So they've got the better cars, and they've got great setups. Leclerc last year was able to do quite a bit with a very, very underperforming Ferrari last year. So yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful thing of this year specifically is that, there've been so many twists and turns, there've been so many ups and downs and so much unpredictability that, the races are actually fun to watch again because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, on paper, it should be Lewis and Max, but with there's been another year and a bit since they last raced to Turkey. The track was really, really greasy, having been repaved. Like the oil was definitely leaching out, and even in the dry, the track was really, really hard to get a handle of. Once it went wet, it was diabolical. So nobody really knows what a year's aging is going to do to that surface. And no matter what we say right now, It's going to be worth watching. That's a great circuit. There's lots of high speed corners, lots of real technical stuff. And, it was really good for the Canadian Lance Stroll last year. I mean, he got his first pole, he led a big chunk of the race. And, hopefully we can see, maybe we see Nicky Latifi, get a little bit of glory to keep up with George Russell.
And Colin, big week in NASCAR. Bubba Watson became only the second African American to win at NASCAR's top level. You got to go back to 1963 when Wendell Scott did it. And, this has been a long time coming for Bubba Watson. And you could just see the emotion for him. And really, it seemed like a lot of people just in the NASCAR circuit were really rooting for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be the guy to correct you, but this is Bubba Wallace, not Watson, the golfer.
Sorry.
He's easy enough to do, but it was awesome to see because, obviously Bubba's of African-American descent, and, NASCAR obviously has a fairly, murky past, with Confederation and with some of the policies that a number, specifically in the South, are still trying to uphold. But I take a look at it from a couple different standpoints. I mean, there's going to be a lot of kids who of African descent, or even other minorities, that take a look and say, wow, this guy was able to do it, and maybe it opens up the world of racing to people who otherwise wouldn't have seen it. But, because of who Bubba drives for, which is Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin, they've got some of the biggest companies that are sponsors, with McDonald's and DoorDash and Coca-Cola being obviously some of the biggest Fortune 500 companies. For those companies to get a win is massive, because then they can start to double down with what they're doing with sponsorship, and they can make it a little bit bigger and better. It's definitely refocused some of the racist, bottom feeders, that the fact that, Bubba's black, they seem to, look for conspiracies, and the just the venom that people are spewing because this guy won a race, is really showcasing a lot of the unfortunate parts of, some of what's still associated with NASCAR. So, hopefully with a little bit of education, a little bit, and a lot more time, some of these people can either, evolve, or they can, start focusing on something else instead of, trying to drag people down to their level.
You listen to TSN 1260 in the CanTorque Racing Report with Colin Livingston. Colin, shifting over to IndyCar, it seems like they're giving opportunities for rookie orientation practice to run next year in Indy 500. How does that work? Is that just to qualify if you haven't qualified already from this year? Or what's the process for that?
It's Indy is its own animal. To pilot an open wheel car around that racetrack is not something you can just jump into and do. So Indy as a series is really really careful and really calculating that they make sure that before you get to even go for qualifying or go for open practice, that you demonstrate the ability to handle the car around the track. So they break it into 3 phases where you have to drive within a window, basically like between, I'm making the numbers up, but phase 1 is basically between 200 and 208 miles an hour. Then you do 15 laps like that. Then you do your next phase between 208 and 215, and then you do 215 to 220 or whatever it is. Both Romain Grosjean and Jimmy Johnson wanted to get the rookie orientation out of the way. The track made it available. They both got to phase 3, and then the day was basically marred with rain. The guys both were able to get up to speed. They just weren't able to complete all the laps. So technically they didn't get it out of the way, but they also kind of technically passed. So if they Romain Grosjean is signed to do a full season next year. Jimmy Johnson is still not. He's still only signed to do the road and street races. So it at least opens it up to have Johnson do the 500 if if they decide to do that and if they get sponsorship, I don't think Johnson have a real hard time finding somebody to jump on his car. But, it'll definitely make the 500 that much more interesting to have these guys. I mean, Romain Grosjean just was the absolute star of the show at the last oval race at Gateway in St. Louis. Can't wait to see what he'd be able to do on the bigger track. It's definitely a different animal, though. It's so much about aerodynamics and so much like really, really, really seat of your pants driving, because the cars are so unbalanced when you get in turbulence in the corners, and you really can't lift. You have to keep your foot in it for 500 miles.
One last one for you, Colin. You mentioned Hamilton, and then they're being coy. Do you think they push him to the back this week because of it? Like, would this be the weekend to do it, or would you wait and do it later?
I think they gotta wait. If they go to, like, Max did their engine last race in Russia. That means that they've got to run 8 races on a single engine to get to the end of the year. So it's almost certain that Red Bull's going to take a second penalty before the end of the year. And that's going to really come into play. There's 2.5 points separating those two right now with 7 races to go. If Mercedes is throwing a new engine in, and it sounds like their number 2 engine could go back into the car. So Mercedes has a lot more flexibility right now. If they get rid of that, then they're in a tough spot like Red Bull. I think they need to drag it out as long as they can. But again, there's also a reason why I'm not the head of Mercedes F1 right now.
Well, Colin, always good to catch up with you, man. Enjoy the week, and we will talk to see if indeed Hamilton and them go to the back, or do they wait and then find out if he joins Carlos Sainz at the back after Sainz goes engine number 4. Maybe Hamilton will as well. Have a good weekend.
Same to you guys.